We have Will. Hello, hello. Welcome,
Nice.
welcome. Ah,
So we are waiting for one more, right?
Darlington just joined, so this
Okay,
should be about
perfect.
it. This is our group
Uh,
today.
Will was telling me today that he needs maybe a minute to connect his audio and to test it. So just let's give
Okay.
him a minute.
Yeah, we got
Nice.
time.
Let's give it a minute. Let's give it a minute. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Darlington.
Hello.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you and some new
Hello,
faces.
Ingo.
Hello.
Hey, Will.
Nice to see you guys.
Yes. Well, so great to have you guys here for our Unifiers adoption work group. Um, we are gonna talk about identity today, and yeah, it's great to have you. Everyone was super timely and on time today. Usually we end up waiting 5 minutes, so this is awesome. Uh,
Yeah, thank you guys.
yeah. Well, we can roll right into it. Uh, how about we take a minute to introduce ourselves and go from there.
Yeah,
Who wants?
let's do that. I can start as I'm also co-hosting. So my name is Linda. I am from Polkadot ecosystem. I'm Polkadot senior ambassador, and I also work with Codadot, which is an NFT marketplace. Uh, yeah, and now I'm also focusing on unifiers, which is also this is why we are here today. We are today focusing on connecting ecosystem and talking about like important topics. So glad to be here. Yeah, I think I will be very short, so I don't take much time, and anyone can continue.
Let's pick the next person. So who do you want to go next?
So the only one I don't know is Darlington, so he can continue.
That's me. I'm Darlington. I'm in the Cardano ecosystem. We do a lot of education and governance tooling, specifically around Project Catalyst and some of the new efforts Cardano has around the Voltaire era. The, a specific cohort there, the DREPs role. That's me. I don't know most people, so let's go to Will.
Thank you. So my name is Will. I go in the community as Chef Door. I've been developing a set of tools that some of you may have heard about or not at all. Basically around WASM and determinism to help governance. At the early versions of Polkadot, there was the need in governance to vote for runtimes, but people didn't have a way to know what they were voting for. They were just voting for some bytes, which is very difficult to do. So I developed some tooling. One of the tool is called SR tool, which is a tool helping building the WASM in a way that it's deterministic, so people can double check what exactly lands in a runtime. And another tool called subwasm, which basically is a tool that allows you to inspect what really is a wasm. So what, not what people tell you it is, but what it really is, which should be the same. But in a trustless environment, you want to make sure this is really the same. Back in 2019, I also made a proposal to make the first registrar available on Polkadot, which is now known as registrar number one, because the ID is one, very simply. So it's a registrar that has been running since 2019, available on the testnets, available on Polkadot and Kusama for the relay chains. And it's also a registrar that is available on some of the parachains, such as Moonbeam, and so on. So I've been operating these since then, and I think this is the reason why I've been invited to this call. But I'm very happy to meet a couple of other faces. So it seems I have to pick the next name, so I'm going to pick someone that is not completely unknown. I know Ingo, yeah, I think he's a famous face in the ecosystem, so I think you can take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Ingo. I'm the founder of Kilt Protocol. Kilt Protocol is a parachain to Polkadot, and it only does identity. So this is probably why I'm invited to this call.
Yes, sir.
I'm in the Polkadot ecosystem since 2018, and I'm in the identity ecosystem since 2016. So I know something about identity, or at least have an opinion about it. And yeah, happy to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Peter Wolcott. I've been in the Cardano ecosystem since 2021 and I've worked pretty much part-time around Project Catalyst since then, as a project manager for different projects, as well as well, helping host lots of events. I helped for like a year and a half. I every week hosted the After Town Hall, which is an event for people to be able to. It's just it's pretty much a Google form where people can sign up to have a breakout room in the Catalyst After Town Hall, and so it was just a bed for community to come in and present their stuff and have conversations with people who they would normally not be able to invite or get as much traction because people were showing up to the town hall. So that was really cool, and it definitely, um, I definitely enjoyed doing that, and still kind of help with that mechanism. And we wrote some playbooks, and now some of my friends are doing that for Intersect these days. So that's my history mostly around Catalyst. I work in IT in biotech, and I do customer service for PhD scientists and whatnot. So I getting better at I'm growing up. I'm 28. I still feel young compared to a lot of folks, and I'm just happy to be get to hang out in my free time with such great minds. So uh yeah, that's me. That's me. That's me.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
All right, we can pivot now. We're done with our little intros. To yeah, a digital identity. This is a topic that I mean, in Cardano, I've heard a lot of people talk about digital identity ever since I came into the space, and I've wondered why there haven't been as many. It seems to me like a fairly easy thing to implement, in that the technology allows us to print these types of identities and hand them out, but then who issues them and who hosts the space to be able to share them and look them up, all these costs are make the problem more complicated. And so yeah, I'm just really interested to learn from those of you who know more. So yeah, let's start off with, like, yeah, what's your opinion on digital identity, and maybe how have you seen it grow in the last 3 or 4 years to now?
So
Can get
yeah, I would really like to see to hear maybe something from Ingo, because he's the only one, maybe, or maybe like the biggest project that is focused on identity solutions, and they have already some products, and I think I was from Ingo's talks, because I heard some of them before. I learned a lot, but I think he can maybe give us maybe some short intro about how he perceived digital identity. And
I try quick rundown. So first, let's start with what is identity, and that is also a question which is very philosophical, but we can probably agree on that identity consists of identification and certification. So first of all, you need an identifier, and in the physical world, that is normally your face, your fingerprint, your signature. And in the physical world, this is totally decentralized, like blockchain people would dream about it, because I made myself my face, right? It was not given to me by an entity, not by a government, not by a company, not by a blockchain. It's just my face. And I can also decide when to show my face. I can just hit this button here and then you don't see my face anymore. So I have total control and no one can switch it off. So you cannot decide that I'm a bad person and switch off my face. That doesn't work. So I'm autonomous, I'm sovereign, fantastic. But that is only identifying something. So you can make the difference between me and you, right? And that doesn't say a lot about me. My identity is much more. It is also the things that I achieved, the things that I can do, that I'm allowed to do. And that is in the physical world normally represented by verifiable credentials, things like passports, university degrees, and stuff like that. And they are also in a way decentralized, because anyone can become an entity which issues these certificates. For example, a university is not the same as the government, right? So a university can say, I'm issuing to people who passed the courses there a certificate saying you are a computer scientist master or something. And then I get this paper and it is linked to my identifier because I have my name on it. And sometimes they even have a picture of me on it. And then I store them in my wallet, in my drawer somewhere. And I decide again when to show, to whom to show, for what reason to show. So I still have the control over my complete identity. And this was actually a good thing, and it worked for 500 years. And then the digitization comes. And then we had this huge problem in the Web 2 that it got centralized because there was things like Facebook and so on. And my digital identity normally is linked to my Google account or my Facebook account. It's all in there, right? And then we have mechanisms where I can use WhatsApp when I have a Facebook account. But in the end, it all depends on my Facebook account. And that can be switched off by someone. It is not under my control. It is in a database in a foreign country at some company. And they gain a lot of power with that. And I'm not in control of the identity again. So the thing is that we actually, digitization should make the world move forward, but in this case, it made the world move backward. And that is not really good because we have less freedom, less power to the individual than we had before. And this is something that came up like in the like 2014, 2015, people started thinking about that. And then they said, okay, we have to actually solve that. And there were many great projects out there which made fantastic technology around it and said, we cannot solve it this way or that way, but they were all not successful. And the reason for that was that there was no standardization. Standardization sounds totally boring, but it is sometimes really important because when you just, as a small company in Berlin, you just have your solution about digital identity, who's going to invest in that? Which company, which state, which government is going to buy this? Because it's all dependent on this small company there. That doesn't work. And so this is why we formed the Decentralized Identity Foundation in 2016. That included entities like the American government and Microsoft and IBM and many other companies, including ours. And it was in the end like 350 companies, and they sat together and said, let's standardize that. Let's all agree on how digital identity actually looks and make a formal specification out of it. Not an implementation, a formal specification. And that took, unfortunately, ages. In 2022, it was finished and finally got approved by the W3C as a standardization body. And now we have DIDs and verifiable credentials, which are now the gold standard of digital identity. And the cool thing is people can invest in that and start projects on that because they know even if somebody else starts a project with another vendor, they still will be compatible because it's all DIDs and verifiable credentials. And now we see big entities like the American government starting to issue passports to their citizens based on DIDs. Fantastic. We see big companies working together with or small company here like Deloitte, and they can work together with us even though we are only 15 people because they know we use DIDs, right? And so they can build business on top of that, and so on. So we see it growing inside the world, and that is actually the very short, history of digital identity in the last decade, I would say.
That's beautiful. Yes, you've been working on this for a while, man. 6.
Someone had to bring some solutions to the table.
Yeah.
Because I think like the ones on solution of online are very the ones that we have or had before are very poor. Like they're not based on blockchain technologies, and they're just trying to make the old identity system being online. That's not going to work.
It's very
Before the next first speaker chimed in, I can chime in as a consumer or like a business who goes out looking for identity solutions and share my experience and challenges we've had so far. Like I said, with the lighter crew, we do a lot of governance tooling, and we've been looking for a way to give people credentials for doing things that they do offline, to give them credentials online. So later down the line, that could have meaning of some sort in a smart contract or on chain or on some on-chain, off-chain interaction. Like, it would be nice if we can prove that we were in this meeting sometime in the future in a smart contract. So those kinds of use cases is what I've been chasing with Cardano and the Project Catalyst program that runs there. There's a lot of roles that make that program happen. And most of it is like gruesome work, lots of work, and almost none of it is connected to anything on chain or any like credentials or anything along those lines. And our goal has been to just issue as much, not identities, but just credentials. I went to this meeting, I participated in this round of voting because the voting is done on a side chain, so the mainnet doesn't know about it, those kinds of things. And with that, we've shopped around for a few identities or credentials provider, and we're currently piloting a provider called ProofSpace. But during the shopping period, and even now, it seems like with the credentials and the current specs for the that's come out of the work you were just talking about, Ingo, storing the thing is still a challenge. Like storing the thing in a way, because when you issue a credential, and maybe this would be a informative conversation about how it works on Polkadot. But over here, when you issue a credential, it just goes into an identity wallet and nowhere else. It's just like with the user, which makes sense, right? It's what's the term? Self-sovereign, right? The
self-custody.
user has it, and there's nowhere to like know about it. And so it becomes a challenge to answer big aggregator questions that you would normally be able to answer, like how many people went to the town hall last year compared to this year? Those kinds of questions are challenging to answer. And then it seems like there's not standardization from one identity wallet to the next. So where we've been having trouble just presenting one interaction and having 2 or 3 different wallets engage with it. There seems to be some part of the whole flow that still requires, dare I say, a touch of centralization, maybe. And so for that reason, we have to be able to know exactly what wallets the user is using and be able to support that specific wallet. And that is a problem we're still shopping for a solution for. And I'd love to hear, what's going on in that space with storing the data and having it be truly, if there is a spec, maybe there's gaps in the formal specification that makes it so the wallets are not exactly talking to each other yet. But that's been my experience. But just issuing them, different grade, people love them. People love getting credits for things. They're free. They don't pay anything for it. And I think it would take a while to have a lot of those credentials out there for other creative people to start creating abstractions around what it means when you put 50 of these different buckets of credentials together. What does it mean when you put 10 different credentials together or 500 different credentials together and start bringing meat into them? But we're just doing our part of just issuing them, issue. But I'm curious on the wallet situation and the interoperability at that layer.
Yeah.
Maybe I can first answer the first question. So the first question was about how do I actually know how many people actually went to this town hall. Maybe if the issuer would count them, that would be very easy. That is, I think, the easiest place, because here you have this natural centralization because you have one issuer and they can easily count. I wouldn't give up on the decentralization part of actually giving the people their credentials and having the sovereignty over them, because of course you can very easily take the credential and store it on a blockchain, but you run into trouble then later. Because that opens personal data to basically anyone, and this is what you don't want. And I think we've seen in Ethereum an identity approach, I would call it, what's it called? Those NFTs they have there. I forgot. This is basically the dream of every totalitarian country.
Right.
You basically have everything that you did locked up on a blockchain, which can never be deleted, and you can always look it up, and you don't even have to pay a database. Fantastic. So the sovereignty is an important thing, and I think it is also for adoption. It is really important. Maybe I don't want someone to know that I was on that town hall. And in that case, let the people count who issue the credentials. That is fine, but the credentials should be mine, and I decide who I show it to. The other thing with the wallet, with the wallets, yeah, we have different wallet providers, and normally wallet providers don't think of other wallets. That's their enemy. To reach compatibility between wallets is a fantastic and really almost unachievable thing. So when I started, so we tried, for example, to get all stuff into MetaMask. So we called MetaMask and said, hey, we see your wallet doesn't really have identity in it. We do have code here. You can just compile it in, and then it has identity. Wouldn't it be nice to use it? And I said, no, you're not. You're from the different ecosystem, right? And also, we do our stuff and you do your stuff, so please leave us alone. So they wouldn't do that. And I think that is an issue of wallet providers, actually, that they don't like to be compatible with each other and not really collaborate. Of course, and also the standardization is not perfect. So I'm not going to say that it's only their fault. It's also the fault of the standardization, which is very much in its infancy. We have 2024 now. The first issue of the standard was 2022. There's different things that you can talk about. Where do you put which key? Where do you actually do the crypto in it, and so on? There's a lot of freedom that we still have in the standard, and people interpret it differently. So standards will evolve over time, but it is really hard when you have different ecosystems like we unfortunately have in the blockchain world, and different wallet providers which just cater the needs of their own company normally. Then it is really hard to on the ground actually to get compatibility done. That is true, and it's two things that we have to solve there, and this is not going to be easy.
Yeah, competition between wallet providers. Everyone wants to be the next browser for the blockchain. So it's a very competitive space. There's lots of them.
Yep.
Yeah. Right, yeah, like Darlington was saying, the only credentials that I've received through Cardano are the ones that he's handed out in the town halls for Project Catalyst, and they only work in the one wallet, and that's the only place they show up. And so I don't get to have those along with my other uh collection of NFTs and tokens in the rest of my wallets. But that seems like a standardization. A lot of the problems in blockchain come down to agreeing on how we should do things. There's the accounting system, and then with more layers of structure on top. Yeah. Will, do you have any opinion on identity?
I have many opinions. And to react to what you just said, I'm not sure we need to agree on a standard. Um, so first of all, when we say identity, I think many people think about people, like I have an identity, but that's not only limited to people. Identity can be also about sorry, I've skipped the word. Hold on. How is it called? Like companies or groups of people,
Entities. Yeah.
entities. Thank you very much. So it's not only about people. It can be entities. It can be also things. Actually, blockchains don't really know natively about identity. They don't know about groups. They don't know about people. Blockchains know about accounts. And we are attaching information on these accounts. So we can attach the first name and the last name of a person to an account. Ingo mentioned that's not a very good idea, and I totally agree with that, but it's possible. Now, I think if we backtrack a little bit, I think what is super interesting with blockchains is that we have the ability to provide another identity to an account, but we don't have to. And that's a big change. If we consider the options we have today about identity, or these big guys providing our identities online, such as Google and Facebook and so on, you don't have your say. If you want to be part of Facebook, you're going to get your Facebook account and that's it. And they will decide to attach on it whatever they want. You're not going to have your say on this. On the blockchain, I think it's important to understand that it's possible to have an account that has no identity. It is legal. Everyone can do that as many times they want. And a person or an entity, a group of people, could have 1 million accounts. That's legal. That's no problem with that. Now, part of these 1 million accounts, they may decide to create one identity or two identities or 10 identities. And finally, they may decide to get these identities verified. Now, I think that's an interesting thing. You are talking about a standard and that we should standardize the whole thing. I don't think we need to do that. It's actually up to how things will be verified. And to basically support a bit what I'm saying here is
Jocelyn backup finished.
the level of seriousness in an identity will depend a lot on what you're trying to do. If you want to prove your identity because you go to the swimming pool, obviously the verification doesn't need to be as strong as if you need to open a bank account or if you need to request a new passport. So I think it's possible to have actually several ways to interpret what is an identity and verify what is an identity. Now, obviously, when you are a swimming pool, you may check an identity based on some criteria. And if you're a bank, maybe you're going to use another set of criteria or another provider of verification. So I think it's important to consider that. The difference between accounts and the ability to attach extra information on them or not. Actually, people are free to decide. And there are many people using blockchain, not even setting an identity. Now, that leads to a problem as soon as you talk about governance. Because usually when we talk about governance, we humans like to rely on reputation. We know this guy is saying something good and doing some things good. And so we want to check that this guy is really this guy. And that's where identity plays a role. If we don't have identity, we have no way to know who is the person voting or making a proposal. And by who, I'm not even talking about the first name and last name. That could be a number, that can be an ID. But we need to know that this account number 123 is a good one or a bad one. And this is where identity also plays a role. So it's tightly related to reputation and governance. I think these points are super important. Now, can we completely erase bad actors from a blockchain? No. I mean, there will be scammers and spammers on the blockchain. Now, lots of the blockchains, and especially Polkadot, for example, has a few mechanisms to prevent that. It's very difficult to create, or it's very costly to create 1 million identities. It's possible, but it costs a lot of money. So you need to be really motivated to do that. Now, if you, on top of this, decide to get these identities verified and people realize you're a bad actor, it's going to be very easy for the community in a completely decentralized way to ban you, like to just agree that you're not a good guy, and they can simply skip whatever you're saying. So yeah, that's the couple of points I wanted to throw in the discussion because I think they're important. And the main one probably being that identity is not just people.
Yeah, I have to say that I really like your ideas because I never thought about the identity in a way that, you know, like as you said, you can have well more wallets, like more identities under one person, and it doesn't need to be like just one focus on one person. This is like very, I think it's well, this is what Web3 is about. So I never heard this opinion before, and I'm not into Web3 identities that much, but this one is, I think it's a very great point. In one way, I'm just thinking about if this will not bring, you know, like a bit of chaos if someone has, I don't know, like 5 or, you know, like different identities, or, you know, like in the, or do we really in the internet world need to have one, you know, like, because then it would be hard to imagine that, you know, like one person is behind more accounts, and it will be harder for, I don't know, like people to follow up who is doing what, you know. I mean, everything is in blockchain and can be searchable back, but yeah, I'm just,
I think it's breaking the model we have today that either
yeah,
you're public
exactly,
or you're not. And the reality today, and I'm thinking about artists, for example, people that have a public face. Some of them, I will mention guys like Buckethead for them, those who like guitar. This guy is actually performing with a mask, so no one knows how he looks like. And that's a good example. You may want to have a public face because, you know, the guy is selling music. He needs to be recognized as an artist, as an entity, but he may not want to share his real identity. He may want to be free as a person outside of his profession or passion, music. And I think many people are just like this. Like, we are not just human. Some people have a job. They need to have credentials to access, you know, the server room. And at the same time, maybe these people are artists and they want to also have another identity or another way to define themselves that will have a weight in a specific community of artists, whether it's music or gaming or whatever. And there is no reason why you want to mix your, I would say, work identity, your personal identity, your musician identity, and your gamer identity. You know, some people do all of that, and they may want to have different identities. It's very hard to do today.
Yeah. And I think we already have that today. So I might be a bank accountant during daytime, and I might be a health angel at night. And my identifier is probably at night some kind of a leather jacket, and people identify me more from the leather jacket. And in the daytime, I use my cards to enter the server room, right? So that is a totally different identity, and they don't even have to mix or have a common denominator in a way. And then also maybe I have a gaming identity, and my gaming identity is some kind of a meme or something, right? And so that is, and I think we already have that. So we had it in the physical world already, and it is even more in the digital world. And with blockchain, it becomes even easier actually, because of course you can have as many DIDs as you want, and attach different credentials to them, and then you have different identities. And reputation, as you call it, reputation, which is accumulating credentials probably, and you earn per identity. So if I have 2 identities and I am making this good guy identity by earning credentials on. He actually achieved this project. He actually did absolutely fantastic things, even made documentation about it. Then I get credentials only on this one DID, and the other DID probably does not have that, but maybe the other DID has lots of interesting credentials around gaming, right? And so I won this guy, and I made so and so many points and levels in this game. So I might be a gaming celebrity, and on the same time a developer celebrity. So that could happen. Right, and that's two different people, actually, or two different identities, but in the end, they come together as the same person, and we don't notice that.
No. I would disagree. I think we have the illusion today of the ability to have several identities, but at the end of the day, your account for gaming or for a bank account is linked to your identity, like the one of today, your first name, your last name, your birth, date of birth, and your country or whatever, and your social security number. So if you go up enough the database today, you find people. Like you will link your gamer identity to your musician identity to your personal identity. And I think that's what we can avoid with blockchain. There is no reason for having that. Now, to what you're saying, yes, sure, you may want to have kind of a higher level identity so that you can prove that you're a good gamer and a great musician. I think it is solvable today. I don't think the call is too much geared to ZK knowledge, but to a certain extent, this is where you can have application for that, where you can actually prove things without having to disclose them. So I think there are options related to blockchain and related to the accounting system and attaching data to it that would solve a bunch of these problems.
Yeah, so I'm not a very big fan of trying to solve everything with zero knowledge as well. That's probably not what we always need. But so to make a practical example, so it would be possible. So if I, for example, if I have two digital identities, one is for gaming, and I have proven that I'm actually this person by having a mechanism like social KYC, proving that I really own this email address and this Twitter account and this Discord account now, people can actually be sure if they play with me that this is always the same person, and they have some kind of power over me. If I try to be a bad person in this game, they can write on Twitter, "Don't play with this guy," right? So there's one thing, and then I have this other identity as a developer, and here I'm delivering code, and I have checked with my GitHub maybe. Of course, it would potentially be possible to link my GitHub account to my email account and find out something where then my bank account is attached to, and then ask my bank if that person is actually this person. And then, yeah, but how? It's really complicated. So
not for everyone. Be a government. You can just ask, and you're going to get the information.
Yeah, but still, it's a lot of work. So why would? So first of all, why would I need it? And the second thing, how criminal things do you expect me to do so that it is really of my so big interest that nobody finds out? So I think it's always, you have to weigh the things against each other. So if you want total anonymous things, then you run into other problems as well, because we've seen that on the internet a lot, right? All the hate speech where you can't really find out who the people are, and that is a huge problem of the centralized things. Mm-hmm. And if we do decentralized and make it even more anonymous, then we're also running into issues there probably. So how important is it actually that it's absolutely impossible to track me down? I personally think that it should be complicated to track me down, but complicated is actually enough. Because on the other hand, then we have face recognition. I couldn't go out in the street anymore probably because there's cameras out there, and there's AIs which are going to find out where I was in the last 12 years or something. And so if we want this 100% anonymity, this is one word I can't pronounce, anonymity, and then we basically are going to give up our lives. I'm not sure if we, so I think we have to see both sides actually.
Yeah, it is not an easy topic. And to be honest, when I started working in the blockchain landscape at the beginning, I really didn't see the point. And you know, I had my photos in Google Photos, and I remember talking to young guys telling me, "Oh no, Google, I will never use that." And I just said, well, you know, I don't have anything to hide. I have my family photos. And if someone finds that, you know, who cares? It's not something really I bother. But it's not about you being anonymous or don't having to expose your identity is not just about you doing bad things. It's just a right. It's just a right that people don't have to know what you are doing. And I think that's right. We tend to forget, and especially with social media, people tend to actually throw everything out. But there are countries, and there was a discussion I had with a German guy who had probably a different insight than me as a French guy on the whole situation, and he kind of opened my eyes on the right and the need for people to have this privacy simply. And it doesn't mean I consider my shopping list should be private. It's not like there is any secret, or I don't do any illegal in my
This is
shopping.
this is what we
I
do.
don't want anyone to know about it.
This is why we do decentralization, and this is why we have blockchains, and this is all good. I'm just saying it's not. We don't have to make it 100% secure. We just have to make it so complicated that the cost for actually looking after one person is too high to actually make this for a lot of persons. That is, and this is, I think, what we should try to achieve, because when we try to achieve complete anonymity, and then people will start to misuse that. And it should be possible to track down someone who's really doing things they shouldn't do online. We had those things with that, like somebody posting child porn thingies into Bitcoin. So maybe we should have a way to track down this one person, even though it costs maybe $100,000. But then let's still have the possibility to track him down.
Yeah.
So, by the way, because nobody expects you to have secrets on your shopping list, that's why I keep most of my secrets. It's like hiding them in plain sight. But for
shopping list.
it's
buy milk, buy bread, kill this person.
Except now I've
kidding, but yeah.
For the solution builders in the room, are you approaching identity and credentials as the same problem? Or is there a world where one person provides the credentials and another person provides the identity? Or is that a crazy pipe dream?
I think identity, credentials are a part of identity.
Right.
So it's identifier plus credential makes identity. So if you just have identifiers alone, then you end up with just crypto addresses, basically. Right? That is, so the crypto address is an identifier, but that doesn't say a lot about you. But it's not your identity. It is some kind of denominator, where it is something where you can be distinguished from others, but that is the only thing. So being distinguished is not enough to have identity.
Right, but could a third party come up and say, okay, we know about these 7 issuers that we care about, and so we're going to bring those together and instantiate an identity object, and then so people within that community who has those credentials can come into this other wallet or interface or whatever and be able to instantiate an identity object that brings those 7 discrete credentials together? Or are we not in that space yet?
I think the standardization allows for accumulation of credentials. That is actually part of it. So you can nest credentials. So I can say I have a credential which says, I don't know, where I live and when I was born and what my first name and last name is, and that's it. And then you can use that credential and, for example, and import that into driver's license credentials, where the driver's license says I can drive vehicle class, I don't know, ABC for the last 20 years before I have to go to another test or something. So that is finished implementation. You can use that.
Wow, okay.
That is not a pipe dream. That is definitely what people are doing right now or using right now. I'm not talking about dreams. I'm talking about real use cases which are out there in the real world and which are used by industry and governments already. So this is not like wild dreams. This is all implemented years ago and used for years.
I think as implementers, we have a big responsibility in how things will be designed for the next decades, because lots of the things we see today are really carrying the weight of the past. And I'll take an example. If you take a train today or take a plane, take a plane is actually a very good example, I think. Today, you're going to have to disclose your identity to take a plane or take a train. And I find that completely crazy. There is this service company that is providing a train, putting people in and bringing people from A to B. So their job is just to move meat from A to B. My job as piece of meat is to pay for that. Of course, that's a service I need to pay. And I see no reason in this specific example to have to disclose my identity. I need to be able to prove that I paid, but there is no reason for these people to know my address and my age and my bank account and my social security number. That's not part of the deal. Now, you may consider also immigration and, border stuff control and so on, but that's another topic. I want to exclude that from the example. But I think today we're going way overboard in terms of what we request people to provide, because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
It's very comfortable. If you have the birth date of people, you know their age, so you know if they are underage or not. But if we have ways to prove that people are underage or not without disclosing all of that, and I'm going back to ZK, sorry, I think it's much more in line with what we should be doing in the future.
Yeah, I really agree with this. And I cannot as you said, examples of train and just going. I was also thinking just normal things as a banking, why should bank know things about you? Like this credit score, I know that this is probably also known topic, but this should be not only the credit score, but other examples. I don't know, memberships or streaming services. Even though I know that you're not giving them directly your private data, but they shouldn't be even needing any data from you to know to give you the service. So I think these services that we are used to use today, they shouldn't be allowed, you should be able to verify your identity or you as a person without even giving them any details. So this is something, or maybe this is where I would like to see more user cases, but yeah, we have to have some base and then maybe build on it. But this is maybe more of a for the future, but any normal service, even I don't know, even maybe getting driving license and these things, they don't even, I can imagine them to be in one way somewhat hidden to public or to any other company, and you should be able to verify yourself even without proving you're the person.
But this is so again, this is all implemented, possible and in production, because it's called selective disclosure and it doesn't need zero knowledge proof. So with verifiable credentials, there's the possibility for the user to actually share certain parts of the credentials, or maybe even share that the credential exists without any of the details. So that is already possible. I think that the issue that we have is that collecting data was very much appreciated in the last decade. So every big company had advisors, and the advisors said, look at Facebook, they are very, very successful. How did they get successful? They collected data. Please also collect data. And this is why your airline collects all the data about you that they don't need. you are lucky and I'm lucky because we both live in the European Union, and now we have GDPR, and GDPR makes data a burden. And that is an important step. Not everyone has noticed that because still they think maybe the data is valuable. No, it's not, because it's far too little data. So if you compare your local airline to and the data they have compared to the data that Facebook has, that is not even visible, right? So they will not make money with the data. But still they have the data, and the data could leak, and you could call and say, please delete my data now as we have GDPR, and then they have to run through all their databases and find you and delete you without any trace of you. And if they don't do that, if they fail to do that in some way or form, they will have really, really big fines on that, right? So that makes, for the first time in history, collecting data unattractive for companies. I think it will take another decade until they really understand, but I have seen one or two big companies already which try to get rid of their data. And that is a very, very good sign for Web3, because Web3 actually always has the goal to keep the data with the user, right? So give the data to the user, have it in wallet, and so on and so on and so on. And this is the only way how the companies can get rid of this data. And it is also the power of decentralization, because it is much more secure if you have your data with yourself, because breaking into your little wallet is not very attractive for an attacker. Breaking into the wallet of Air France is much more attractive, because you can get a lot of data there, right? So the goal should be to decentralize the data and have the user take care of their data. Unfortunately, the user loves the centralized part, because the centralized part always has a phone number where you can call and say, I forgot my data. And please, can you read it out to me again? And this is I think we have this big user interface issue still for Web3, but the incentivization for the industry to use Web3 is already out there, at least in Europe. But I think it's spreading over the world. So GDPR, everyone talks about it, right? So,
Peter, are you moving now?
not yet, no.
Even in the US, it is a subject, because I take as a European citizen, I take my GDPR rights with me. So if I travel to the US and the hotel puts me into a database, I can call the hotel and say, delete it again. And if they don't, they get fines from the European Union, even though they are in the US. So it is an issue, which also spreads to US companies from time to time. And I think in the end, everyone will agree that it is a better idea to have things like that. And it's fostering Web3. So it's actually good that we're doing that. But you're completely right. They're collecting data that they don't need. And they will find out one day.
To nuance a bit my mention to ZK, I just wanted to mention, Ingo, that I totally agree with one keyword you mentioned. I think it's worth keeping this one or surfacing this one. This is selective disclosure. And I think I agree with you, and I think that should be in the hand of the user to decide what they disclose to which entity or which company. And if my driving license test organism wants to know how old I am, I would be fine with that. You know, like, why not? If they really require it, I can accept to show that information, and in return, I'm going to get a driving license. And the next guy asking me for my driving license, I may want to disclose that I have a driving license without disclosing the data that are, under it. And I think it's practical.
Exactly. This is what you also do in the physical world, because in the physical world, when I go to an American bar and have to prove that I'm 21, this guy needs to know my date of birth, and he needs to look at the picture of the passport and compare it with my face. That's the two things that he needs, but he does not need to have my name and my home address. So I can just put my finger over that, right? And that is selective disclosure. We already had it in the physical world, and now with verifiable credentials, we also have it in the digital world.
I agree with that.
We maybe need to wait for a bigger adoption, so like more companies use it, then it becomes maybe some kind of standard, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
The big question really is, and again, I agree with you, Ingo, completely on this one, is we want that, but I think that the attendees here are a bit special-minded. The problem is, do people really want that? Do people really want to own their identity? I'm not sure about that. If you lose your password, it's much easier to be able to go somewhere and say, reset it, please. I'm gonna give you everything about me. Just reset these things because I forgot my password. And this is not how Web3 works. The problem is we offer people to take this data and their identity in their hand. The big question I will raise is, are people ready for that? And do people really want that?
Yeah, good question. So, I think when we look at crypto, it started as a totally decentralized thing, and it became mainstream when we had centralized exchanges. So we actually made a secure technology, and then put secure technology on top of it, and then people liked it. So that's how it goes, right? So it is an issue, and so we've been working last year with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security actually on solving these things, because they are going to start issuing digital passports with DIDs to the American citizens in 2025, which is a great. So this is standardization, right? The standard is there, and then comes one of the biggest countries in the world that starts to adopt this thing and use it for all their citizens. That's actually good news. And so they also said we actually need those fallback scenarios, because people can lose their passport today, and it may not be more complicated than getting a new passport to get a new DID passport, right? So even if you lose your, so I don't know if they want 12 words. So if you lose your 12 words, it must be possible to go somewhere with another document and get it reissued in a way, or get a new one issued. And then, of course, you have to get the problem is you always have to get your credentials again. So getting your DID, you can basically go again to and just make it again. So because it's a software which is on your phone, but then you have to get all the credentials, and that is the same thing when you lose your wallet today. I mean, not your MetaMask wallet, but your physical wallet. When I lose my wallet, that is really the worst thing that can happen, because I have to go to probably 20 different things like banks and government and driver's license department and library and so on, and say, can you please reissue that? But this is the job of the issuer. And so the standpoint of the American government is, we are just an issuer. And what we will provide is, we will provide you a new verifiable credential, which is representing your passport or your ID card, if you want. And we're going to make the normal tests like we did before. So you have to bring your birth certificate or something, and then we will reissue that credential to another DID, and we will delete the one on the old DID. So this thing works. So for the use cases in the real world, we find solution to that. It becomes more complicated when you think in a totally decentralized world, where you don't have centralized exchanges and you might lose your keys to your Bitcoins. And that is an issue. But this is an issue that we built with blockchain, and maybe I think there's some approaches how people want to solve that with social stuff and so on, or just write it down twice and put it in different places.
Yeah,
there are technical solutions. I think it's a lot like the typical problem of security. You have a needle, and we need to decide where we put it. And people want it super unsecure but easy. And at the same time, they want the benefit of having it super secure, but unfortunately, that means very uneasy. And and it's very hard to find technical solutions, to kind of make it easier and nonetheless very secure.
I think we will get to that point. I mean, the steps that we are already doing and solutions that are already there, as Ingo mentioned, some of them are I think good, and we just need, like, push it a bit more further, and it will go. Like, I think in the future these things will not be as complicated and maybe not easy as they are now, and that's with all maybe good ideas and technologies. So I very hope that it will go that way. So
yeah, I think one fascinating theme that I've pulled out of this conversation, thank you for being here, Ingo, is that a lot of the features of identity that we want, that we imagine, that we don't necessarily have in all of our identities in the real world, do exist. Like, there's precedent for them in the real world, whether or not they're like whether or not they're snappy and smooth in a digital format for us all the time. Like we can hold our ID up and cover our address, you know, stuff like that. And yeah, I think that in terms of adopting these things, well, making the decentralized, enjoying the security of identities in a more decentralized environment, could be made more simple with other types of well, recovery schemes. I know one that I've been paying attention to is this one called the DREC Alliance, which is between Algorand and Hedera and XRP, which I don't know much about. I haven't studied a ton about these companies, but they are working on a wallet that allows for decentralized recovery. Essentially, you can shard out your seed to your friends and your family and at a variable rate. So if I give 7 out, maybe I say that I need all 7 to be able to recover my phrase, or I could say 5 or 3, and then the clients for that password manager that holds all those seeds kind of check with each other and make sure everyone's alive on a regular basis, and so those shards are still safe, and valid and available to be claimed back. And that to me sounds interesting and might help with adoption in terms of bridging the gap between the ease of use and the security in those products. But yeah, thank you all for coming. We're at the top of the hour.
We're exactly at the time, so this group is very precise.
Yes, very precise. No.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, I also got a lot of interesting points. I also wrote my notes and things, and we will be after this processing like everything what we got here, and then publishing it, so you will be able to check it, recheck it. So yeah, thank you again for your time, for everything, for your insights and ideas. They were very precious, and it gave us, I think, much better idea on how the situation is and how it will be or maybe. So yeah, thank you for that, guys.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Beautiful. See you around.